Welcome to the ODDSBREAKER'S #1 place for shared, sharp betting information.
Welcome back to podcast 49 of 2020. I'm your host, Kiev O'Neill. You can follow me on Twitter at OBKiev. Follow us at the ODDSBREAKERS and follow us on social media /the ODDSBREAKERS, including our new Twitch and YouTube channels. This episode is being brought to you by jazzsports.ag. For a 50% sign-up bonus, please visit Jazz Sports and use the promo code ODDSBREAKERS. Terms and conditions apply. If you'd like to help us out with our costs and sponsor the website and the podcast, we would love to help you out. Please visit theoddsbreakers.com, click shop, and become a member. For $17.99 a month, you can get my plays and premium plays before the line moves. If nothing else, please visit theoddsbreakers.com and become a free picks newsletter subscriber. My friends, we still have less than 2,000 Circus Sports million entries, and they're going to pay out $3 million. That is a huge overlay still. They have more people than we thought. Thank goodness for them to recoup some money back. But at the same time, if you don't get into this amazing contest, you are missing out. Please visit kellyinvegas.com to get signed up for that, or the Westgate Super Contest, the contest among all NFL sports handicapping contests. We have a great show for you today because we are back in football mode finally. 2 podcasts a week. Today we are going to get into some sharp line movement. We're going to get into a few college plays with Kyle Hunter coming on. And we are going to get into my NFL free plays of week 1. Very excited for that and to get things back to somewhat normal. Before I get into that, 5 Dimes, a very popular sports book, decided to cancel all of their American customers, leaving them high and dry right before the football season with a ton of future bet exposure. I am shocked that they did this. You know, this book has been slower and slower since Tony died. He was the originator of this online sports book. He moved to Costa Rica. He's from West Virginia originally and started 5 Dimes. Got into some trouble, of course, but was always able to get out of it. And then about a year and a half, 2 years ago, he was literally abducted and kidnapped and asked for a ransom by somebody out of, I believe, Portugal or Spain. It was a mother, a son, and somebody else. I don't know the exact detail of that. Well, anyways, they found him dead in Costa Rica, and I believe his family did pay $1 million to them in Bitcoin. They were arrested and prosecuted. They are still being charged as pending. They are extradited out of Europe into Costa Rica, and they are serving, waiting on sentencing there, waiting on their trial, I believe, still to this day, the people that abducted and supposedly killed Tony from 5 Dimes. But ever since that happened, 5 Dimes has become, let's just say, a lot sloppier. You know, there was times that we could get plus money on both sides and some lines. They still had the best future bets. They always have. But they've been slow to post things, slow to react, and all of a sudden everybody gets this message that they are stopping U.S. customers. They're going to focus more on Europe. Well, they are either in a lot of trouble that we don't know about, or they're with the governments, or they are in a lot of debt to some of these future bets. There was a bunch of election bets they had up that people had plus money on both sides of the coin there. I had a lot of great future numbers there. One of them was the Tampa Bay Rays, which is ahead by like 5 games in the American East. And, you know, the Yankees have been injured and they're close to 500. The Rays was going to run away with that division. I had them 5-1, and now it's supposed to be just a refund. You know, very frustrated with 5 Dimes and their sloppy business practices here. All went downhill. Lots of people are messaging me about them. I do have some other sports books you could sign up at. Just hit bet now on the ODDSBREAKERS and you can sign up. I'm actually going to update that and remove all our 5 Dimes affiliations. But at the same time, very frustrating that they did this. Some of the bet books I do recommend is Jazz Sports. That is one of our sponsors. BetOnline.ag has always been very solid for our customers, and Bookmaker.eu. And finally, MyBookie.ag has maybe been one of our best affiliate. Lots of great things happening there with MyBookie. So make sure you check those books out if you need one. And one thing I will say about Five Dimes is when they decide to do business again in America, I will not be one of their customers. And I hope that you don't either. When you pull future bets away from people when they have great line value, that is just very dishonest, very poor business practices. I will not be one of their customers if they come back to the United States, and I suggest that you should not put your faith or trust into this company again as well. All right, well, hopefully this becomes a much better 2020 for everybody now that football is back. Let's get on our guest, Mr. Kyle Hunter, to break down some college football. Now I'm very happy to welcome back a longtime guest, an amazing handicapper. You know him as Mr. Kyle Hunter from BetterSportsPicks.com and HunterSportsPicks.com. You can follow him on Twitter at Kyle Hunter Picks. How you feeling about the upcoming season, Kyle?
Well, first of all, it's good to be back. It's been a long time. As we were discussing here right before we started recording, it's hard to believe it's been like 7 months since we last talked here on the pod.
February 27th, man. It's been a while. Wow. So welcome back. It's great to have you.
Thanks for having me back. I always enjoy it, and I'm looking forward to the season. This is definitely a very unique season. There's some unknowns that we don't usually have, clearly, and I think it's only fair to say that, but also, at the same time, I don't think that means that there's no value. I think there's still going to be some value on some of these games, both college and the NFL, and I'm looking forward to seeing how things play out this season.
Yeah, I am too. It's going to be interesting, and there's going to be some things coming from left field and that you don't even realize right before the game. Some variances on both sides, really. It's hard to plan for stuff like that, but just know that, when you make a bet, it could go south, or it could get really nice for you right before the game. You just don't know that. But that's just adds more excitement to the game. We don't always like it when there's more variance, so we'll probably be a little bit more picky when it comes to these things. But the most important thing is we want to have some fun, and we want our listeners here to have fun, and that's what it's all about, man. And speaking of fun, I'm excited to announce that Kyle and I is going to put on a new show late on Friday nights, just kind of a high-level look at the lines, the last chance before the game's coming on. Final look, we're going to call it Better Odds Sports Betting on our new YouTube and Twitch channel. You can just find that at searching the Odds Breakers. And it's going to be kind of nice because it's just going to be more of a relaxed feel. We might have a free play for you because lines will move. We're going to talk about some sharp money movements, some last-minute trends for your football betting Saturday.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it, man. I think it'll be enjoyable. Sometimes when we talk in the middle of the week, we think we might like a certain play or we might like a certain total or something like that, but maybe the weather changes. Maybe, the sharp money's going the other way. Maybe there's something that comes out as far as injuries or something. So if we do this last minute, it's going to be a little bit easier to say, here's what the weather looks like, here's where the sharps are on this game, or here's the last minute information. So I think it'll give us a chance to kind of go quickly through quite a few games.
Yeah, it will. And then that's the cool thing about it. Just a lot of times we make our plays in the beginning, but we also will make plays in the end when we find out more information about a quarterback not playing, about possibly a couple defensive linebackers not playing for a key team might affect the total, anything like that. So it's going to definitely have some value, and I'm very excited for it. It's going to be a video show, and not a ton of experience making videos yet, but we're just going to get better and better like we've always done. So it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm really excited to bring that to you guys. Also, we have a few games to break down. So really happy that you came on for that, Kyle. Before we get into that, I'd like to ask you, home field advantage. Now, I've beaten this to death in the NFL, and there's no real answer here. Do you have any thoughts on how you're going to make an adjustment?
Yeah, I know home field advantage has to be a little bit different than it has in the past seasons. I think we've talked about in the past that home field advantage has been a bit overrated here in the last few seasons in college football. So, definitely don't go with your standard 3.5 home field advantage, because we've been seeing that those home field advantage numbers were overvalued even before there were no fans or before there was a limited amount of fans. So I think it's a good idea to take somewhere between about half the home field advantage and 2/3 the home field advantage of what you had at the end of last year. So I'm going to do that on a case-by-case basis this year. The games where there's no fans, probably around half. And the games where, there's 15 or 20,000 fans at the game, probably somewhere around 60% or 2/3 of what the home field advantage was last year. You can find different sources online that'll tell you, what the max fans are allowed to have at different stadiums is going to be, and that's going to be changing a lot throughout the season. So that's going to be one of your high variables throughout the course of the season. But I think that the teams still have to travel, which is still a negative, obviously, for the road team. But there's not going to be as loud of an environment. You're going to be able to hear easier than what you have in the past. You have to downgrade home field advantage at least some.
Yeah, absolutely. I like what you're saying, 60 to 66%. And some fields are better just based upon location or fans. There's going to be obviously the Colorados of the world that are up high in elevation. And there's going to be some of the places that just really didn't have much of a home field advantage at all. Some of these smaller, group of 5 schools that if they're not winning, they're not getting a fan base there. So we got to remember that they didn't have one in the future. Or even in the beginning. So you might just try to give them 2 points for their home field advantage, and that might be too high. So great call on that. We're going to make our adjustment as we go, but it's just going to be something that we kind of touch on throughout the year, I think. So we might find out we're wrong. We might find out we were right from the beginning. As more and more fans come, we will probably be adjusting it to or at least close to what it was before. Well, here's another question for you, Kyle, and this has come right up your alley. You're the best totals guy that I know in college sports. What teams this year might look to change their pace or style of play compared to last year?
Well, I love this question. This is the type of thing that, like you said, this is right up my alley. I like to look at assistant coaches and where teams are going to look different than they did the year before, and try to play totals based on that, especially in the first few weeks of the season until the odds makers catch up. So I'll point out a few here. I'm going to start with teams that are going to play faster this year on offense. I'm going to start with USF. So Charlie Weiss Jr., the new offensive coordinator. Last year, his team was 15th in tempo at Florida Atlantic, and USF was 71st in tempo last year. So I think we're going to see a much quicker tempo coming from USF. Now, I will say I'm not sure that USF is going to be really good at offense. They're going to play a lot faster. I think it might take some time for them to be very good at offense because they don't really have that much talent. To be honest, it might give you a reason to play against USF in some cases, because USF, if they're playing very fast and their defense isn't very good, they could get beat by quite a few points by quality teams. So not necessarily saying I think that they really will improve, but looks like they're going to play faster.
All right. Well, USF there is something to look for. They are, I remember that last year they came in with some hype, and that was quickly disproven by my Badgers. But I think later as the season went on, they figured it out a little bit. So we'll be keying in on that one. Is there any others, or is that kind of the main one?
Well, that's one of the main ones, but I wanted to say also Ole Miss. So the Rebels have Jeff Lebby as their new offensive coordinator. They were 12th in tempo last year, so they already played fast. Let's not say that they didn't play quick last year, but Lebby's team last year, UCF, was first in tempo. So, and I'm pretty sure that the new coaching staff here in Mississippi is going to want to play fast. So I would expect a really fast tempo from Ole Miss. This is a team where I'd like to play some overs if we get chances to. Another one here in the SEC that I want to mention, Kendall Briles, the new offensive coordinator at Arkansas. Briles' offense was 7th in tempo last year. Arkansas was 60th. So Much faster this year. Again, I think this is a pretty poor talent level team right now, though. So I think you could get some spots to play against Arkansas this season. I think that could probably be a pretty good move. But, they're going to play a lot faster, and I would think that they will struggle at least in the early going. Maybe they improve by the end of the season. But to me, this is a team that, is going to really try to push it just because that's the way they want to play. Maybe it won't work with this group of players that well, and I think that could give you some spots to play against them as well. As far as other teams that are looking to change up what they're doing, Baylor's going to run what they call a smash mouth spread with Larry Fedora as their offensive coordinator. This is a team that was 46th in tempo last year, and Fedora has talked about playing a power run offense that's up tempo. I think they probably play a little bit faster than they did last year. I know Charlie Brewer was quoted in some of the press conferences here before the season saying he can't wait to play in a faster-paced offense. So as long as Charlie Brewer's right that this is going to be a faster-paced offense, then we'll probably look to see a little bit quicker-paced team here. I think that Baylor's an interesting team also, just from all that they lost, and Matt Rule was such a good coach. Don't really know what to expect from them. I think they'll definitely be down at least somewhat, but I think they'll play pretty quickly, and that's definitely one to watch. I did want to throw out one real quick here that's a defensive change. Mississippi State. So we know Mike Leach on offense, and we could have said Mike Leach will probably play quicker than what they did last year.
I was going to ask you about that one.
Yeah, so we might as well just talk about both, right? Now, Leach's offense is great, but do they really have the guys that they need? I'm a bit skeptical about Mississippi State this year right off the bat. We'll see what he can do in the future, but they don't really have very many good wide receivers, and you definitely need that in Leach's offense. As far as the defense, though, Zach Arnett, the new defensive coordinator, playing a 3-3-5 defense, and Arnett's a good defensive coordinator, and I like the 3-3-5 defense in general, but the weakness of this Mississippi State team is their secondary. So if you're going to play a 3-3-5 defense and you're weak at the back level to begin with, I think Mississippi State's going to give up quite a few points this season, especially against teams that have a good passing attack. So that's another one I've keyed in on, thinking that Mississippi State could be a play against team when they play teams that have a good passing attack.
Is that because the 5 in the backfield just won't be, I guess, any good because they were already kind of bad before? Now you're leaving more of the middle of the field open with 3 linebackers?
Yeah, and I think that their depth at the back end is really weak too. So if anybody gets hurt in that 3-3-5, the secondary is really weak to start with, and they don't have much depth at all. So I think that they're going to take some time to get this 3-3-5 working here. I think that this is a spot where Mississippi State might be moving up in the long term. I think Leach is a good coach. The jury's out on how he'll do in the SEC, obviously. But, I think he'll probably turn it around at least somewhat. But this year, there could be some growing pains. As I'm looking at my notes, I'm gonna mention one more here. Vanderbilt. So Vanderbilt wants to play really fast this year. Todd Fitch, their new offensive coordinator. I have this one highlighted in my notes. Their goal is to play much faster this year. I think this is a bad idea. I really think this is a bad idea. Vanderbilt was 103rd in tempo last year, and they were really inefficient offensively. If you look at Vanderbilt's offense this year, there is just not much talent there. The SEC is so much more talented than Vanderbilt is. I don't understand why you'd want to play really fast. Why do you want to get more possessions for the other team against your defense, which isn't good, when you're not very efficient on offense? So Vandy, a team that obviously the betting markets aren't going to like, so I'm not just saying just go blindly bet against Vandy because you're going to be laying a lot of points. But I do think that Vanderbilt playing a lot faster this year is very interesting in that, usually you want to play a little slower if you're not very good.
They're already 3-9 against the closing line spread last year and minus 6.1 ATS margin. Imagine how much that can go up right there. So that's some great points. You might have like teams facing Mississippi State, Ole Miss. They have new coaches there. Lane Kiffin's pretty fast, like you said, the coordinator's there. You might not be able to bet that total because Vegas will have that total, but you have to remember that these teams might not put up that many points, and all the points will just go in the hands of the other team for just their fast play. They right. Play fast, they lose fast. It's always kind of been something you thought about with Wake Forest and other teams, right? So
maybe some team total overs on the other side could be worth a play here in a spot like this. So let me say one more. I know I've made it sound like I was almost done, but you get me started on stuff like this, I can keep talking.
For sure.
South Carolina, they're going to play a lot slower. So not everybody's going to play faster. So I wanted to mention one that's going to play slower. Mike Bobo, the new offensive coordinator here, they're going to huddle again this year. Played really fast last year under Brian McClendon. South Carolina's offense is an offense I'm low on as well. Marshawn Lloyd was going to be a good running back for them. He got injured and out for the year. Question mark about the quarterback play and the offensive line. I think they're going to try to hide their offense by playing really slowly here, which I don't blame them, but I just think that, this is something that we should note, that let's see what the books do with the totals here for South Carolina, because I do think there could be some value on unders with South Carolina.
All right, I love it. Finally, someone going slower. The trend is for teams to go get faster and faster is what we've seen over the last 5 to 10 years. Wouldn't you agree, Kyle?
Yeah, definitely. It seems like the trend is definitely to quicker. And I will say everybody likes to say they're going to go really fast. So you want to make sure that in the first 3 or 4 weeks, the teams are actually doing what they said they do before the season. That's really common, especially even in college basketball as well. Everybody wants to say, we're going to play with pace. We're going to play really fast. And then you start watching them and you say, I don't know if they're really going that fast, So I think most of these teams that I just brought up will play fast, but it's kind of a in fashion thing to say we're going to play with tempo.
Well, there's nothing worse to overbetters than teams that play all the way fast into the red zone and go 3 and out. So that happens, and just like college basketball, FIU taking it all the way to the hole at 100 miles per hour and can't even make the shot. So those are always the most frustrating things for those totals. So yeah, we'll have to be key to that red zone efficiency as well to some of these teams. But great ones right there, Kyle. Really love that. Let's get into some games then for college football week 1. And I have UAB versus Miami. Miami's about a 14-point favorite. The total on this game is a 54.5. And I'll go first if that's okay, Kyle. Being that I did have a play on this. I like UAB here, and I did give it out at plus 16, and it's now down to plus 14, and I think it could go down to plus 13.5, as that's where I kind of have the last draw the line, 13.5. Miami seems to come in every single season overhyped. I don't know why that is. It's every season, and I don't know why this one's different, and it's probably because the D'Eriq King deal. He's coming in from Houston, and the kid was good. He did so much for Houston there, but at the same time, he couldn't finish out games last year. The first 4 games he lost 3 out of 4 actually, and he's a dual threat kind of guy. He's got speed, he's got a pretty good arm, but he also left them high and dry on the spot, and I don't know. I'm not into talking about people's character or anything, but Houston was pretty upset about that. Now he's, thinking he's going to go into Miami and turn this team around. Maybe it was a good move for him for the pros. I don't know, but he's going to have harder competition. Besides that stuff, Miami only ranks 97th in returning production this year, while UAB ranks 8th. That's a lot. UAB returns a full team this year, and they kind of improved towards the end. They had their huge transition for when they won the Conference USA last year, kind of rebuilt a little bit, but they do have consistency at quarterback with Tyler Johnson III, and Bill Clark has just been a fantastic coach there. Miami's not going to have the same home field advantage with limited fans there. And so that's another thing to think about. It's not as intimidating with all those people screaming at you in the turnover chain. Nobody's going to be making any noise for a turnover chain except for the team itself, So there's going to be a rust factor to Miami. They're like a brand new team almost this year. Great recruiting compared to UAB, of course, and that's why you see such a big spread. But UAB, they already played a game this year and got some of that rust off. They only beat Central Arkansas by 10 points, but that was because of garbage time. There was a lot of garbage time in that game. If you look at the total yards, UAB almost doubled them in total yards. I think UAB is a live dog here, and I'd like them to cover. And I wouldn't be shocked if they actually won this outright. Maybe a little bit of sprinkle there, but I definitely like a small play, maybe a unit and a half or something on plus 14. What are your thoughts, Kyle?
So first of all, I like UAB as a team quite a bit. I think they're the team to beat in Conference USA. I love Bill Clark. This guy's a great coach, also a really classy guy. The fact that he stuck around when they didn't even have a football program really said a lot about him. He wanted to keep coaching those same players. UAB, to me, the question mark here, so if I wanted to play the devil's advocate here, I'd say that UAB, when they've played top teams, has not really been very good. They're 0-3 against the spread in the last 3 years when they play Florida, Texas A&M, and Tennessee. They lost 36-7, 41-20, and 30-7 in those games. Bill Clark is 23-9 ATS in the Conference USA, and in non-conference 10-9. So, I do worry a little bit about them stepping up in class. Having said that, I'm not laying the points here with Miami. So I'm leaning your direction. I don't know if I'm going to play this game, to be honest with you. UAB's secondary is really good. So Miami's going to need to be able to run on them quite a bit, I think, because I don't see Miami just throwing all over UAB here. The other thing that I think we should point out is that Rousseau opted out for Miami this year. So he was their best pass rusher. Miami had a lot of turnover luck last season. Ball bounced their way quite a bit. And the reason I didn't point out Miami as one of the teams for a tempo change is because I knew we were about to talk about Miami. But Rhett Lashley, their new offensive coordinator, they're going to play much faster than they did last year. Miami was 98th in tempo last season, much quicker this year. That's why we're seeing the total jump here, and that's certainly the right move as far as value. I wish I played the over earlier. I don't think I can play the over at this number. But, to me, as far as the side, I see 14 on UAB. There's even a couple 14.5. So I do like UAB north of 14. I think that at 14, it's about where I would probably want to pass in general. But, the question is, can De'Aaron King stay healthy? This offensive line allowed 51 sacks last year. They returned 6 linemen from last year, but is that a good thing? I mean, they weren't any good last year. So, maybe they'll be better this year, but, I don't have really high hopes for Miami's offensive line. I do think Miami's a better team than they were last year. And like I said, I worry a little bit about UAB playing up in class, but I think UAB could be a really good team to back throughout the course of the Conference USA play. So I lean your way here, but I think I'm going to pass.
All right. Well, we'll get a pass from you on this game. Great points about the change of pace there. That would be the thing that worries me. If UAB can't get that ball in the end zone, then that could go against them. I still like them down to plus 13.5. Let's move on to the next game here. Then we have Syracuse versus North Carolina. North Carolina is now a 22-point home favorite. The total on this game looks like an exciting one to watch, 65.5 points. Kyle, what are your thoughts about this one?
Well, I'm going to start with Syracuse top 2 running backs just opted out of the season here just a few minutes ago, right before we started recording this. So that's kind of an interesting one where, you're going to have to watch the breaking news for these. Like you said earlier, there's going to be a lot of last minute calls as far as who has to sit out that game, who's quarantined, things like that. So I think I would be careful making big bets early in the week this year. I think that there's going to be a lot more question marks this year. And like you said at the beginning, I'm going to be a little bit more careful, a little bit more choosy when it comes to playing, especially sides, because you go and make a huge play on a team and their star quarterback is the one who has to sit out that week. It's going to hurt before the game even starts. So you could be kicking yourself pretty hard. So I think it's good to be a bit cautious as far as especially how big of a play you make on a side early in the week. But Syracuse to me is an interesting team in that, Dino Babers, everybody thought, hey, he's got this program turned around. Here we go. And then last year was a huge disappointment. This Syracuse team was expected to be far better than they were last season. What are they going to be this year? I think there's a few things that are key here for Syracuse when you look at them is their offensive line has been really, really bad. 50 sacks allowed last year, 4th most in the country. They only had 50 plays of 20 yards or more all season. And when you're playing as fast as Syracuse was, to be 101st in the nation in explosive plays is really not good at all. So they want to play fast again. DeVito needs to be better this year and needs to stay healthy. The offensive line, though, has to be better or else, they're not going to be too good offensively. My concerns about the defense, I mentioned this about another team earlier, But Syracuse is switching to a 3-3-5 defense. But really, the weakness of their team is the linebackers and the secondary. So, if they had any strength on defense, it would be their defensive line. But when you switch to a 3-3-5, that could negate your positive that you have, the one positive you have. So I think this defense is going to be really bad this year. I would expect Syracuse to give up a lot of points. North Carolina on the other side, I like North Carolina. I think a lot of people like North Carolina, but I think that is justified. Their hype is justified. This is a team that's really going in the right direction. They did have quite a few guys opt out of the season, so I do want to point out that their secondary especially, they had several DBs opt out of the season, so they have less depth than they would have had there. Still a pretty good defense, and Jay Bateman's a really good defensive coordinator, so really like the improvement they showed in year one. As far as their offense, Sam Howell, he was amazing as a freshman. 38 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. Yeah. You get that from a freshman, you know he's going to be really good. I think this guy could be a Heisman candidate before he's done at North Carolina. They did allow a little bit too many sacks last year, 37 sacks. So second year in the system for the offensive line. I assume they will be better than they were last year. I think this team's going to score a lot of points on people this year. So I would lean to the over in this one typically, but this one's gotten bet up quite a bit. I have to say I don't think I will play this over because of how high it is now. North Carolina team total over, a possibility. I think North Carolina scores quite a few points here. I'm a bit unsure about what Syracuse is going to do. How much are they going to contribute? And at the same time, you could say, well, just lay the points. I'm not a huge fan of laying 22.5 points. I think that, and a lot of the listeners know that. When you get up to 22.5 points, you can get the backdoor touchdown against you pretty often at the end. So I'm going to lean toward the over, and I would probably lean strongest toward a North Carolina team total over here.
Return of the Mac is back, and I got to tell you, I agree with everything you're saying there. I haven't made a play on this game at all, and those two opt-outs is like, wow, just like we were saying before, great call, great research there, letting us know that this might climb up to 24 by the time this thing gets going here, this game gets kicked off. Both teams play pretty fast. If you're looking at actual plays per game from last year, North Carolina ranked 4th and Syracuse ranked ranked 4th and North Carolina ranked 8th. They both can pick up the pace if they feel the need to, right? What scares me is the North Carolina hype. Everybody's on this team. Yeah. What is Syracuse, man? Was this just a bad year for Dino Babers? They do at least, return their quarterback, Tommy DeVito there. And so both teams return a quarterback. I like Dino Babers as an experienced coach in the ACC. I can't really compare him to Mac, but, he's just been fantastic there over the years. He's been one of my favorite ACC coaches, in my opinion. The 38 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. Wow. The hype is correct on this team, but this spread is so high. I was looking at the total too, but 65.5 on the first game coming in, it definitely worries me a little bit too. I'm going to lean to the over here. Syracuse only ranks 106th in returning production, and they could get blown out here. This could be one of those 45-3 type games, that they just run the ball in the whole fourth quarter. Could be, or it could go over. So I think the probability more is shaded to the over, in my opinion. That's why I lean it. But nothing I touched yet. And I was wondering if I was going to have a play on this one too, because I was waiting for you to talk me into betting the over or something, but that didn't happen. So I think it's best to leave it alone there. Sometimes we got to do that, Kyle. But next game we have is a couple better names. Well, one name for sure, Notre Dame. They made a schedule by joining the ACC this year. Duke is a team that really, with Cutcliffe there, underachieved last year. Spread on this thing is 19.5. The total on this is 54.5. Kyle, what are your thoughts on this one?
I'm going to start with the fact that I don't know if anybody could have guessed that this is what would make Notre Dame join a league. I remember years in the past, my dad, who's a football fan as well, said, I wonder what it'll take to get Notre Dame to join a league. There was talk of them going into the Big Ten and this and that. And jokingly, a few weeks ago, I said to him, I guess the correct answer was a pandemic.
Yeah. Totally.
It's interesting that I don't blame him for doing that and joining the league. It's just, I wouldn't have foreseen this coming, and Notre Dame in the ACC is not where you would have guessed they would be necessarily. Also, if you look back in the years, but Notre Dame, the team, I think Notre Dame's a good team. I don't think Notre Dame's a great team. I think that Notre Dame, Ian Book is a good quarterback. To me, Ian Book is a guy that he's going to put up good numbers against subpar defenses, and he's going to be pretty good against mediocre defenses as well. But is he going to be good against elite defenses? I don't think he's shown that yet. So in my book, I see what I did there. In my book, he's not great against elite defenses. I think Ian Book is a decent player, but not a great quarterback. And I will say that I think the strength of this Notre Dame team is the offensive line. They have a really good offensive line. I would expect them to be able to run the football well in this game because Duke's strength on defense is the secondary. Front seven, though, can be run on. The big question in this game is, what is Duke on offense? Duke was a woeful 125th in yards per play on offense last year. Cutcliffe says, hey, I'm just going to start calling the plays. You can't blame them because last year they weren't very imaginative. They need to be better. They were minus 11 turnover margin last year. They were a bit unlucky with their turnovers. The expected turnover margin was negative 6.3, so the ball bounced the wrong way a little bit there. I think Chase Bryce could be pretty good at offensive on quarterback for this offense. I think that he has some experience there at Clemson playing in a couple key games. And really, they need somebody who can throw the ball better than what they've had the last couple seasons. So I don't really know what Duke is on offense. I think that they'll be better than they were last year. I don't know how much better. I think Duke will play relatively quickly. Notre Dame kind of middle of the pack in tempo, maybe a bit fast. But, Notre Dame loses their top 3 pass catchers from last year. We know those were some really good receivers and tight ends here at Notre Dame. So the strength of their offense now is the offensive line. The defense lost a few key guys as far as pass rushers. I'm going to lean to the over in this game. I see there's a bit of wind here forecast for that game, so I guess I'll give a shameless plug for our show for later in the week and say that, we'll see what the weather looks like later in the week. If we get 15 or 20 miles per hour winds here, I would not want to play the over. If it's something like, 8 or 9 miles per hour, then I would lean to the over in this game. But I think that there will be a quick enough tempo, and I think that Duke's offense will at least be somewhat better than last year, and I do think Notre Dame can run the football on Duke pretty easily here.
Yeah, great job bringing up the weather here. I agree. Notre Dame isn't elite to me. I think they're very good, I would say. I wouldn't say great, just like you, but I would say very good. Duke's another team who, like Syracuse, really failed to meet those expectations. They missed their bowl game last year. They did at least end the season beating Miami, but Miami was kind of quitting by that time. As you saw, they scored 0 points against I think it was Louisiana Tech in their bowl game last year. Yeah. And Duke, they ranked 65th in returning production, kind of in the middle of the road. But yeah, you're right. Chase Bryce does have some experience backing up Trevor Lawrence at Clemson, through nine touchdowns and about 1,000 yards in his 2 years there. One thing I do like about Duke is they do return 4 of their 5 starting offensive linemen. That's nice. The Irish, I believe, returns their full offensive line, which is better. But Notre Dame, they really lucked out by keeping Ian Book off the draft. I think Ian Book just kind of looked at it like, hey, I think I can improve my draft stock. Instead of being the 4th or 5th quarterback picked, I can be the 1st or 2nd. So he's going into this year, him and Trevor Lawrence is where he wants to be. The Irish ranked 83rd in returning production. Duke lost to Notre Dame by 29 points last year. And that's why they're seeing this spread starting to go up. I have Notre Dame winning by 15.5. So I'm not that far off the spread. I guess I'm between the 17. But I tell you this, I'm waiting on this. And if this thing passes 21 points, which it could, a lot of Notre Dame money comes in, that's when I might be making a play on Duke. So just want to kind of throw that out there. Any final thoughts?
Yeah, I don't blame you. If it gets over to 21 or over, then you have to start looking at the dog. And really, let's be honest, Cutcliffe's been really good as an underdog in the past. So if I had to play this spread, I would take Duke even at the current price. I don't think I will take a side here unless we do get to 21 or higher, and then I will be taking a hard look at Duke.
Right. And the quarterback whisperer, Cutcliffe there, has Chase Bryce with the chip on his shoulder coming from Clemson. So that's something to think about there. Well, let's get into our final game. We're going to take a look at then Tulane versus South Alabama. South Alabama plus 8.5 points. The total in this game is 52.5. So I'll start here. South Alabama exceeded expectations last week. You saw them beat Southern Miss. A bunch of money came on them. There's a lot of people that saw that. I wasn't so convinced myself, and I thought Southern Miss would improve from last year, but apparently this was a huge they literally got beat. I watched the game. Southern Miss just got beat by a better football team, in my opinion. But I guess I should have saw it too, because if you look at the last 4 games South Alabama had, Desmond Trotter, he played those teams really close, and the very last game he beat Arkansas State. And then people kind of saw that and threw money on them, and hopefully they sprinkled that money line, because that was probably a 4 to 5 to 1 payout right there. They return South Alabama returns 60% production. Tulane was very solid last year, 9-4 against the spread, 1.7 ATS margin, but they only rank 122nd in returning production here, and they lost quarterback Justin McMillan, which is going to be tough for them to replace. Tulane was kind of the sweetheart, but preseason darling last year that people thought looked really sharp at 25 to 1. I might have fell for that too. I don't remember. But anyway, American Athletic Conference is just a better conference, as we know. I am concerned that Southern Miss just might be a very bad team here, right? Yeah. And maybe the spread is right, because I think you're going to see more and more money come in on Southern Alabama. So I right now at plus 8.5, I think that's probably fair. But if this thing gets down to 7, I'm going to start thinking Tulane here, just because South Alabama could let down a little bit since they were so bad last year. Maybe they kind of come in with it thinking they're all good and bright and high, shiny again. So I don't know. I think it's correct. Sorry, no play from me. Any thoughts?
Well, I think you had some good thoughts there. If we look at Tulane and South Bama, I think the big question is, what would this line have been before South Bama won over Southern Miss? Probably 13 or 14. This has been a big adjustment. We've talked about this before. I'm always cautious of those huge adjustments from one game. This is one game. South Bama is not a good team. I don't think Southern Miss is very good. I think that was probably a little bit more about Southern Miss not being as good as people thought than it was South Bama being really good. Having said that, I certainly think that South Alabama has improved. And like you said, Desmond Trotter definitely improves this offense for South Bama. The way I was going to go with this is I lean Tulane in this game, and I am waiting to see what happens with this line, because like you, I think that there's a chance this line could go down further. If this line goes down to 7, I'll probably be on Tulane here, because this still is a pretty big step up in class for South Bama. Tulane is a better team than Southern Miss, and Tulane has a really strong defensive line. South Alabama's big question mark here on offense is going to be their offensive line. I think Tulane could be in the backfield quite a bit here. So, Tulane does have questions on offense, to be fair. Like you said, Justin McMillan, key part of their offense. Willie Fritz's team usually runs the football well on just about everybody, and I would think that they'll run the ball well here on South Bama. I think they might be a little bit more cautious as far as their pass and run ratio. I think they'll run the ball a little bit more here this year, will Tulane. And to me, I think Tulane is the side that you have to at least lean to here, because it's the week 1 to week 2 huge move based on one great or one poor performance. In some cases, there'll be a huge reaction to that. I think this could be a bit too big of a move, and I want to see where the numbers come in on this game to see what everybody's been betting. But so far, everybody likes South Alabama in this one. And like you said, I won't be surprised if that continues to happen as far as money coming in on South Alabama. So far, 66% of the bets on South Alabama and a little more than 80% of the money on South Alabama. So certainly a chance that we'll see 7 here. And if so, I do like Tulane.
All right, my man. Well, we are both thinking the same thing on the side on this game. So good stuff there. Any other quick games you want to throw out there?
Yeah, I actually put some notes together about Western Kentucky and Louisville. I wanted to say real quick about that game. Western Kentucky, really pass-heavy team offensively this year. Good group of receivers. They were 120th in red zone efficiency out of 130 teams last year. That's something you mentioned earlier, and I think that's something that likely regresses to the mean. I think they improved there. This is where you've got a Western Kentucky team that's going to be throwing the football around and playing fairly fast. You've got a Louisville offense that is very, very good. I think Satterfield did a really good job with this Louisville offense last year. They went from terrible to great in 1 year. They were 12th in yards per play on offense. Braden Smith, a name to remember here, a key transfer at wide receiver. I think Western Kentucky's defense is pretty decent by Conference USA standards, but they're not going to be able to stop Louisville. So I think this could be an over. I lean to the over in this one. I got to look at this game a little bit more. I haven't played it yet, but certainly lean to the over in this Western Kentucky and Louisville game with a total at 57.5 or 58, so not too terribly high.
All right, fantastic. We have a lean to the over then in that game, Kyle. Well, hey, man, thanks so much. We're out of time. Where could our listeners benefit from your information and your plays?
Head over to bettersportspicks.com. You can sign up for the free pick newsletter over there. I'll also have sharp money reports. You can go to the free members area. There'll be information there before this Saturday and this Sunday's games. And also, huntersportspicks.com, another good source. I got free plays over there, another newsletter over there. So you can get lots of free plays. If you don't want to pay, you don't have to. I'll still try to give you quality information. If you do want to pay, my plays have done really well. I'm on a nice run here lately, 12-4 in the last 16. College football's been a strength of mine. Also 55% in the NFL since 2010. So it's been real solid here in football. I'm really looking forward to the season ahead. And if you want to ask me anything or want any in-depth records, you can contact me at Kyle Hunter Picks on Twitter.
All right, we'll check that out at Kyle Hunter Picks. Thanks again, Kyle, for coming on, and we'll talk to you by Friday for sure.
All right, look forward to it. Thanks.
And now it is time for
The Sharp Side of the Force.
The Sharp Side of the Force is brought to you by mybookie.ag. For a 50% bonus, please visit mybookie and use the promo code TheOddsBreakers. All right, let's get right into it here. College football sharp sides. UAB plus 16 to down to plus 14 at Miami. 39% of the tickets on UAB, but 65% of the money is on UAB. 26 percentage point difference. And remember, I have to have at least a 20% difference here between the ticket totals and the money for it to be a sharp side in college. UNC minus 20.5 to minus 22 hosting Syracuse. 33% of the tickets on UNC, but 56% of the money on UNC at 23% percentage point difference. I kind of lean Syracuse there still. I think I have Syracuse by like 7 or losing by 17. So there you go. Louisiana at Iowa State plus 12 down to plus 11, 33% of the tickets on Louisiana, Lafayette, but 65% of the money is on Louisiana, and that's a nice 32% percentage point difference. Army hosting Louisiana, Monroe, dual action at minus 19, 81% of the tickets on Army, but 99% of the money is on Army. So that's a big dual action. Florida State minus 11 to minus 12.5 hosting Georgia Tech. 70% of the money on FSU, but 96% of the money is on FSU, a 26 percentage point difference. I disagree with that one too. Florida State's been garbage. South Alabama plus 11 down to plus 7.5 hosting Tulane. 66% of the money on South Alabama, but 87% of the money is on South Alabama. 66% of the tickets, that is. So just like Kyle and I talked about earlier, Coastal Carolina plus 7 at Kansas. Now, this was bet up, right? It was at 3.5, then it went up to 7, but now people are hitting Coastal Carolina. Maybe someone's got a nice middle set up. 50% of the tickets on Coastal, but 76% of the money is on Coastal, which is a 26 percentage point difference. Sharp college totals. First one, we have Louisiana Monroe versus Army under 55.5. Dual action on that. 78% of the money is on the under, but 99% of the money is on the under. 78% of the tickets on the under. 99% of the money is on the under. 55 for that game. Arkansas State versus Kansas State, under 55 down to 54.5. 63% on the under, but 92% of the money's on the under. 29 percentage point difference. University of Texas San Antonio versus Texas State, over 56 to 57.5. 32 percentage on the total, 32%, and to the over, and 84% of the money is on the over. So 52 percentage point difference there. Western Kentucky versus Louisville, over 56 to 57.5. Dual action, 84% on the over, but 95% of the money is on the over. UTEP versus Texas, under 61 down to 58.5. Dual action, 71% on the under, but 93% of the money is on the under. Sharp NFL. Dolphins +7 at New England. 47% of the tickets on Miami, but 72% of the money's on Miami, a 25 percentage point difference. Washington +6 hosting Philly. 33% of the tickets on Washington. 57% of the money is on Washington, a 24% difference. Cleveland +8.5 at Baltimore. 45% of the tickets are in Cleveland, but 76% of the money's on Cleveland. 31 percentage point difference. Las Vegas Raiders -1.5 to -3.5 at Carolina. Dual action, 68% of the tickets on Las Vegas, and 84% of the money is on Las Vegas. That is dual action. New York Jets +6.5 at Buffalo. 34% of the tickets on New York Jets and 56% of the money. 22 percentage point difference. Atlanta +1.5 hosting Seattle. 28% of the tickets are on Atlanta, but 49% of the money is on Atlanta, a 21 percentage point difference. I kind of disagree there. I like Seattle a little bit, not a ton. LA Rams +3 hosting Dallas. 37% of the tickets on the Rams, but 63% of the money is on the Rams. 26 percentage point difference. A lot of Dallas haters out there when it comes to sharp money. Sharp NFL totals. Miami versus New England, over 42.5, 47% on the over. 95% of the money is on the over. 48 percentage point difference. New York Jets versus Buffalo, under 40. 49% of the tickets on the under, but 98% of the money is on the under. A 49 percentage point difference. Pretty big. Dallas versus LA Rams, under 52. 27% of the money is on the tickets on the under. 85% of the money is on the under. A 58 percentage point difference. Huge. Tampa Bay versus New Orleans, over 48.5. Dual action, 88% of the tickets on the over. 97% of the money's on the over. And finally, the LA Chargers versus the Bengals, under 44. Dual action, 74% of the tickets on the under. 99% of the money is on the under. That's pretty huge. They must really think that Joe Burrow's not going to score any points, and Tyrod Taylor is not going to score any either. Well, let's get into our NFL free plays of the week. All right, well, as you know, it is the NFL Week 1, and we are extremely excited to talk about our free plays for you. If you'd like to become a premium subscriber and get our premium plays, make sure you check out theoddsbreakers.com and click shop. So that way, you can all bet what we are betting, and we send the plays out via email as soon as we put them in. We're going to start out with the Las Vegas Raiders -3, 1-star premium play. I like them, and I did give this out at -1.5, so it was just a premium play. Now it's premium shared because it's up to 3. The Raiders have a better and more experienced team than the Panthers. They have a new quarterback there, new coach, new coordinators, completely new schemes. Lots of players from last year's on the Panthers are gone. It's going to be a huge learning curve there, I think. Sometimes you got to look at the games and say to yourself, what's a better chance going to happen? What's a better chance? The Panthers can't get it together at all, or the fact that the Raiders don't cover this -3 spread. I think there's just a much better chance that the Raiders could be leading this team by 10 points, 15, 14 points, 17 points, whatever, you know. Now, there is, of course, a chance on the other side that maybe Carolina has all their ducks in a row, everything buttoned up, but that doesn't happen that often. So I like the Raiders even at -3. Of course, I liked it a lot more at -1.5. Derek Carr, by the way, he's going to have a chip on his shoulder to prove that he's the starting quarterback over Marcus Mariota.
Business bad? Fuck you, pay me. Oh, you had a fire? Fuck you, pay me. Place got hit by lightning, huh? Fuck you, pay me.
Next one, we're going to play the Seattle versus Atlanta game under 49, 2-star premium shared here. Seattle runs the ball a ton, okay? And they rank in the top 3 in carries over the last 2 years. So they give the ball to Chris Carson a lot. They're going to want to clock it. If they have any sort of lead in the second half, they don't want Matt Ryan to be on the field. They're going to be running the ball, running the clock. That's just how they roll. There's too many points for this game. There's too many. And I know it's on the fast turf in Atlanta, but last year, the Falcons' last 4 games, they held both the Bucs and 49ers to 22 points, and they also held the Jaguars to 12 and the Panthers to 20. So the Atlanta Falcons had a really good defensive finish. They did lose some guys on defense, but they're still going to come in and they're try to protect their home field. So I don't expect a high-scoring game. I just think 49 is too much for this game. I can see it being like 21, 24, 17 to 28, 17 to 21, 21 to 20 type game like that. So in my opinion, I like the under here at 49 for the first week here. Seattle should be able to control the time of possession in this game. Finally, I like the New York Giants at +6, 1-star premium play, shared play, and I also like the under 47 for 3 stars. That's also going to be shared with you, premium play. The Steelers, terrible offense last year, fantastic defense. The first-round pick, trade for Minkah Fitzpatrick, was a home run. It really was. But it's not going to help that lethargic offense. I know Big Ben is back, but he's most likely going to be rusty. The Giants picked up a lot of guys in free agency this year on defense. Some help for the secondary like James Bradbury from Carolina, Logan Ryan from Tennessee. I just see a low-scoring game here. 13 to 10, 20 to 17, 17 to 13, something like that. I like the Giants to cover +6, and it's correlated to the under. There's going to be not too many points scored this game, so you also like the dog at +6. And those are our 3 NFL plays for NFL Week 1. Be watching out for our free play articles at theoddsbreakers.com. If you have any questions or want to talk about any games, please feel free to tweet us at the Oddsbreakers or contact us on the website. Everyone, have a fantastic weekend watching these games and go get some winners.